Welcome to Open Pike Night, the Strange New Worlds podcast where your calls are the prime directive. I'm your host, John T. Bolds, here tonight with the return of Strange New Words, Episode 6. We're excited to speak once again with Star Trek producer and writer Bill Wolkoff and writer David Reed. You've heard from both of them already this season, and they're here to help us celebrate the horrors of the void. What's up, guys? How you doing?
Hello.
Hello. Doing very well. Glad to be back.
Yeah, it's great to have you back. We can't wait to talk about episode 6, but first let me go ahead and introduce my co-hosts. A man who explores the far reaches of the podcast universe and will steal anything that helps make Open Pike Night the best show out there by any means, fair or foul. Host of Green Shirt and Newbies Trek Through the Next Generation, Cameron Harrison.
If you hear any happy screaming, that's just me watching this episode.
And unfortunately, our co-host Jesse Bailey was traveling back from Star Trek Las Vegas, and he dropped both of his nacelles, guys. Both of them. Can you believe it?
A double nacelle drop.
Yeah, double nacelle drop. Like, he's super embarrassed, so he couldn't sign on tonight to talk with us, but he'll be back for Strange New Words Episode 7, hopefully once he limps back to Starbase 1.
It's okay if he blew his nest egg at the airport slot machine. We won't judge. We won't judge.
We've all been there.
We could start a GoFundMe to get him back if necessary.
Exactly. Yeah.
If I recall correctly, there are several Star Trek themed slot machines.
I did not see a single one. I had to play on Kong. Yeah.
Oh.
Wow. Well, next year at STLV, we're going to have to do an episode where we go find every Star Trek slot machine.
We'll phone a friend, David Reed.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I know just where to go.
If a casino were to make a Enterprise saucer-shaped craps table, I might blow my nest egg there. Just saying.
Wow.
Rio is missing out on some branding opportunities, is all I'm saying.
Seriously.
Once a year.
Seriously.
Make all their money back. But that's a whole nother episode.
So, let's go ahead and get into talking about this amazing episode. Can you want to start us off?
Well, I mean, David, you did mention to us that you could not wait to talk about this episode. You were very excited about this one, particularly, so we were all intrigued. What was the pitch? What was the initial kernel for this episode, and how did it evolve into the one we saw?
The initial pitch. Well, this episode has a crazy backstory, which is that it was completely different. It was a completely different idea. And Bill and I we were slated to write it together, and we were both kind of pondering how to make the best version of the other one that we were attempting. And at a certain point, one of us might have gone slightly rogue and sent an email to...
I'm pointing to him right now. And I'm glad he went rogue, but I am pointing to David Reed's box.
Well, so, I mean, the truth of it is...
Credit and blame where it belongs.
There we go.
Yeah, so in this case, it was that because of the peculiarities of the production process on Strange New Worlds, where we have to decide the premise of all of the episodes, all 10 of the episodes in the season before really the normal time. Like, usually you would figure it out kind of as you go. But one of the interesting differentiating factors on this show is that you have to build all the digital assets for the, what we call the AR wall, but the LED volume. You have to build that in advance, right? So I came into the show a little late this season because I had been doing my other job. And when I came in, there were already 10 episodes laid out. There were a bunch of really great ones, a couple that we were like, we'll figure that out when we get there, but start building this cool digital set and we'll figure it out. And this one was one that had no digital set to speak of because we can't afford to have them in every single one. So we were just like, we could kind of do whatever we want. We don't have to be contained to the initial premise. And so Bill and I just kind of went aside and we came up with like 6 more notions that we were like, we want to do a Star Trek episode, like something that feels very original series or next gen, like something that felt like it was about a moral dilemma. We knew that it had to be largely confined to the ship. You know, it's not exactly a bottle episode when you have this number of visual effects and, you know, ostensibly alien intruders in giant expensive spacesuits. But so we came back to Akiva and to Henry and we said, hey, what if we tried one of these other notions? And honestly, they weren't buying it until Bill, in the heat of the moment, just as they were like, no, we don't want to do this one, it just doesn't have an interesting enough hook, suggested the twist at the end of the episode.
Okay.
Which is the thing that makes it, in my mind. That's the thing that makes it a classic for me, because it's the reason why the episode needed to exist. It has something to say about us, about the human condition, about who we are, about who we wish we could be. And it also let us tell a story about Kirk that wasn't just, and now he's heroic and continues being heroic. This is, to me, it's an origin story for the kind of captain that Kirk will eventually be, but isn't quite yet. And it also was a way to show the very stark difference between the way that Pike is a captain and the way that Kirk is a captain. There's a moment early on in the episode when Kirk is like, I don't need to hear all your opinions. I need to be, in my quiet place figuring this out. And that's the exact, if you go back to 301,
the 301,
Pike's his entire style is like, everybody hit me with as many
ideas. Yeah.
Chatter away. I need it.
Yeah. I was so happy to have landed on this premise, and then the actual process of breaking the story and of writing it with Bill. I didn't get to go to set. I was back again on my other job.
That other little show that David Reed works on.
Yeah.
Nobody's really seen. I don't know why you keep going to this other show that you.
A little boy show.
Yeah.
It's an independent production. So I didn't get to kind of close the loop on it, but it just was very satisfying for me because, last season in episode 206, we had the first meeting of Kirk and Spock. And then this is sort of, the long story short version of this is this is the birth of the Enterprise crew as we will eventually see them in the original series. It was not any sort of coincidence whatsoever who goes over onto the Farragut.
Yes.
Obviously.
And there was a moment where I was like, why isn't Mbenga here? Why did they send chat? Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, and then it's like we brought La'an over really just so she could make googly eyes at Kirk for a second.
Well,
obviously,
that moment with Spock is classic, where he's just like, wait a second.
What's going on?
Anyway. And I love, because at the moment La'an beams away, I was like, oh, look who's here all together. Look at this. Okay, I see what we're doing. Awesome.
I think I do have to, let's give credit where credit is due when the network has a good note, but they did say it's too delicious to not have a Kirk Spock La'an triangle moment in this, and I'm really glad we that got worked into it. So hats off to our network partners for making the show better with that suggestion.
Bill, you should know better than to give executives credit for anything. That goes against the Writers Guild. The minimum basic agreement specifically says the ideas are all ours.
Yes, I've just lost a little bit of my WGA, points. We're just docked just now. So
furiously making protest signs after this.
Yes, it's the birth of the Enterprise crew. But we all know more legacy characters are coming. Let's not pretend they're not, unless you want to, of course, obligated by guild rules to have to pretend. Is there any part of you that felt you did this episode too early, or will we see another episode like it? Was that a consideration in the writing?
I don't think so, because it's when you think about the job of an XO of a first officer, like there are times when they have the con, and what was so fun about this episode was getting to dramatize the first time in Kirk's career that he has the con in a crisis. So for that reason, I don't think it was too soon. That was the point of it, was that he has to take the con in a massive crisis when it is too soon for him, when he's not prepared for it, when, he's bitten off more than he can chew. And not to borrow, metaphors that are actually in the episode too much, but that was I mean, for me at least, that's why you do the episode is because it's too soon for him to do this, and you want to see that moment. Is taking myself out as a writer, but as an audience member, I'm like, oh yeah, I want to see that moment for this legacy character, and then cut to me and David Reed in our separate domiciles, sweating to make sure that we don't screw it up as we're writing it.
Mm-hmm.
No pressure to write the first time James Kirk has the con in a massive crisis. But that was that was the challenge that we had set for ourselves and tried to meet.
Mm-hmm.
Well, also there's a through line for Kirk in this episode, which is about, in the beginning, in his personal log, he's saying, she does everything by the book, etc., but the book would be more interesting if I wrote it. And it is a man who believes all the best ideas come from his own brain, and he has already had experiences with a couple of our crew from the Enterprise. And so to me, this is an episode that's about, for him, realizing how much he needs these other people, and also realizing, wait, part of the job of being a leader is collecting, like little Pokemon, the people who you want to have around you when you're in that crisis. And he's not done collecting. That was another part of this for me, was that this is the moment when he's like, I'll take one of those and one of those and one of those and one of those. And he's like, in the back of his mind, he's thinking about like, what's the team I would assemble? But
we know there's more team members coming.
Yeah, there's more story to tell about how he meets cute with the rest of the original series cast.
Sure.
Yeah, we complimented Davey on this too in his episode with Scotty, but you are all doing like a fantastic job of showing, not telling us, the development of Scotty from who he is in Strange New Worlds to who he is on the Enterprise with Kirk. And that's a fantastic touch. The whole season is doing this great through line, but we noticed we haven't seen engineering yet this season. A lot of scenes that would appear there kind of are showing up in the science lab. Was that just a production choice?
I mean, Bill can speak to it going forward, but like, I don't know that we're going to see it again this season. Like, it is such a production Megillah to go into engineering. And if you look at the sort of the way that the show works, it's like most episodes have one virtual set on the holodeck, the AR wall. And the engineering would be that for the episode. So it's like, if you want to go there, you kind of spent that coin. And so for me, I'm always like, well, I would rather go to a Strange New World than go to strange old engineering.
That's fair. That's
well
fair.
said.
Yeah. We need a really, really compelling, like, to add on that. You have to really need to be down there to go to the trouble to,
like, Hemmer needs to be trying to blow up the ship because he wants the light, kind of level.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it takes literally 2 days to get it ready. It's not a set that we can just walk down the hall into.
In the original break for the episode, before it was even a script, we had discussed having the scavenger ship umbilical protrude through the hull and into engineering. And I think that was one of our very first concessions to the realities of production and budget. This is an episode that comes mid-season, and actually, for all of the amazing visual effects and stunts and everything in it, this episode needed to be relatively cheap. So we put a lot of time, many drafts, into cutting things and optimizing and rethinking where something might be set or how to do a gag to make it sort of fit within the allotted budget.
Many discussions about that, yes.
well spent discussions, because it does not feel cheap. If you had asked me the most expensive episode of the season, I'd probably say this one.
No.
Well,
maybe the least expensive episode of the season.
I mean, the Farragut bridge, is that just a redress of the Enterprise bridge, or how did you do the Farragut scenes?
It was a redress of the Enterprise. The other opportunity that we had that was unfortunately taken away from us by the realities of time and a certain writer-actor strike was we were going to redress the Discovery Bridge to be ferried.
Okay.
And then the strike happened. We were writing the script, and then we went on strike, and then we came back and had to finish writing the script. And in that time, Starfleet Academy was, they were getting ready for their prep, and they needed to essentially tear down that set so that they could build something else there.
Discovery Bridge was gone.
Damn.
You guys saved that for us, right? Right?
Yeah. That's what David's waiting to put up in his home office there. Yeah.
Exactly.
I was surprised it didn't wind up in my garage somehow, but they decided to put it in some Paramount place.
I hope that they're learning their lesson on that one after all the money that they had to spend rebuilding the Enterprise D bridge.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
They kept it this time because you could go visit it at Universal Studios.
Yeah,
so.
You never know. It's interesting that Kirk is serving under a Vulcan captain. Is that pulled? Like we were talking about canon earlier. Is that pulled from canon, or was that an intentional
Oh, no, it's pulled
choice?
from something.
Okay.
It's pulled from our ass because it was completely made up. The reason was because we originally were going to have a moment where the captain, whose name I think is Varel, right? I forget now.
I think
Varel was going to hail the scavenger ship and be like, "Hey, please don't blow us up." Which ended up we cut eventually anyway. But so just the idea was we didn't want a human face there because of the eventual reveal. So
makes sense. I just thought it was interesting that he's bristling under this Vulcan and wondering if that would, eventually feed into his relationship with another Vulcan.
Yes, that's why we did it.
I will credit our director Valerie Weiss. She's awesome and picked up on all of these nuances in the script and intentionally tried to place these like Captain Varel and every that dynamic to put Paul Wesley, Kirk in the most amount of pressure with the personality that he has that's bursting to, be boots on the ground. And she is exactly the opposite. So, that Val picked up on, all of those fun little nuances to allow, that drama to really play out on Kirk in those first couple scenes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I mean, speaking of Kirk bristling against things and people bristling against Kirk and him collecting his crew and Scotty, I thought that relationship was really interesting. Obviously, this is the first time Kirk and Scotty are meeting, and why was Scotty the one antagonist, the big antagonist you chose for Kirk?
It's the first time he was, he meets Kirk in this context, and it just it felt like we didn't want to start with where they are in the original series. Kirk is always pushing Scotty to, push things much faster and harder than an engineer should be pushing the ship. But he that's what he expects from the captain. So the first time that happens, he ain't going to be happy about it, probably, especially with a Scotty who is also, this is a Scotty who is doesn't have the confidence of the Scotty that we knew in the original series and hasn't yet really fallen in love with the Enterprise yet to trust it as much yet. So we wanted to start the Scotty from that place.
Yeah, I mean, because they're in the original series, their working relationship is so based on trust, mutual trust, and so that was a really early discussion. Was just like, well, he definitely wouldn't trust this guy because Kirk is not making such amazing, like startlingly intelligent command decisions that you're like, oh, I'd follow this dude anywhere. Like, this is the origin story of that too. So
Okay.
I'll tell you one quick fun aside about Scotty in this episode. That's tangential to all this, but I thought it was fun. Me and Val watched David while I was working on The Boys. I was boots on the ground there, so sadly David wasn't here for this. But we watched a lot of the old Scotty episodes when he was in the Jeffries tube, because he spent a lot of time in the Jeffries tube in this episode. And he has this really cool way of jumping out of the Jeffries tube that we wanted to do. So we talked to Martin, we talked to Neil Davis, our stunt director. He's like, oh yeah, Neil said they built handles inside the Jeffries tube. So he's just grabbing the handles and like flying out of the Jeffries tube that way. So we built the handles. We built the TOS handles into our Jeffries tube so Scotty could jump out in a cool way. Small little thing, a little detail that not a single person on the planet will notice, but I may have jumped out of the Jeffries tube a few times holding those handles as well.
But yeah, you got to check them out. QC, right?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's what you got to do.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a good leader.
Yeah. What's the significance of Sullivan's Planet?
That is named after my 12-year-old son, Sullivan. And then there's an Admiral Sawyer, who is named after my 15-year-old son. And I don't think my other son got in this one, but someday. But yeah, we you end up naming a lot of things as a TV writer. And so sometimes it's just like, have I name checked my children in this show yet? Here we go.
So your other son is not named Destroyer of Worlds?
Oh, that's right. That's
Asopslich.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he goes by Astrovor, for short.
Well, speaking of that, how did you come up with the design for the enemy ship? I can't say alien ship, but was that the writers or was that all Jonathan Lee? Where'd that come from?
I mean, we pitched ideas about how it should function and the size of it. And, we said it had a big gaping maw. We said it had grapplers.
Yes, we caught that.
We definitely we said the word grappler so much while making this episode, and then they really barely say it at all. I watching the finished cut again today, I was like, oh yeah, we should have had them say grappler way more. But yeah, then the art department just sent a bunch of different sketches, and it just kind of evolved from there. And then VFX got involved, and yeah.
The mouth was Jonathan Lee's. He that. I mean, we described in the script that it ate the Enterprise, but I don't think we said gaping maw, but we didn't specify like a Dune-esque mouth coming down on a Baron Harkonnen mouth coming down on the Enterprise. That was Jonathan Lee. Thank you. But we did have many. We kept saying bigger. We this thing had to dwarf the Farragut and the Enterprise. Like the first models were twice as big, and we kept saying as big as it could be. But that also gets more. The rendering gets more expensive too, so budget catches up to you at a certain point. So it was as big as we could make it.
It was pretty big, and I love the mouth because at first I was like, "This is a giant space monster," and then you find out it's not. But I mean, it wasn't a disappointment. It was just like, "Oh, even cooler." Yeah, and I love that it was just you guys describing a maw because Davey on the last episode was like, "Yeah, we were just using Well of Souls as we wanted that kind of vibe from the room." And then they came back and they put a well in the room. And we're like, well, we weren't thinking well, but we kind of like a well.
Yeah. And I mean, it just goes to show you, yes, this crew who eventually are the ones piloting this huge ship, what nerds? I mean, come on, a big gaping mouth, oh, we should make it scary like this, man. This is how we can really terrify these aliens.
There are definitely D&D players on that ship.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, big time. And this episode does introduce a second enemy that the Gorn were scared of. Is this deliberate attempt to get us to sympathize with the Gorn, especially since one of our beloved characters is kind of turning into a Gorn right now?
I don't know that it was an attempt to any attempt to sympathize with them. I think that there's always a bigger fish, Yep. And in our minds, this was a chance to sort of do a little bit of that old school world building of, when you're out in the dark reaches of space, that there's going to be boogeyman stories. That was really kind of where the legend part of it came from, was just the fun of imagining if you were on a Federation or non-Federation colony and what goes bump in the night that freaks you out. And it's not necessarily the Klingons or the Romulans or the aliens that you kind of at least understand where they're coming from. This was meant to be just who the hell knows what this is, and hopefully making the eventual reveal of what it is land even harder, because it's well, that's what we become when we fall prey to our worst instincts.
Yeah, I'm a sucker for those scenes where everyone they go around the circle and like, this is what I've heard of, and this is what we call it. And like, works for me every time. I'm like, I'm in, I am terrified. Let's go. So you have a lot of fun with the dialogue in this episode. It seems like you have the Kirk line about risk is why we're here, which I feel obviously is a call forward to generations, and him talking about risk is part of the job. Our friend Jesse, our co-host Jesse, caught the tailpipe line, which calls forward to Uhura mentioning a tailpipe in Undiscovered Country. Was that intentional?
I feel like it was. I mean, I definitely have watched that movie a bazillion times.
He feels like there isn't even a cut to Uhura, as if like she's internalizing this word right now.
Yeah, well, it is one of those things where you're like, why do they know about tailpipes? Like, nobody's driven a combustion car outside of time travel episodes in hundreds of years.
People in Star Trek can just not get enough of like 20th century pop culture.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Any other of those kind of little dialogue Easter eggs that?
Well, the risk thing. I mean, now I'm suddenly blanking on the name of the episode, but Kirk has a very famous speech about risk in the original series. Risk is our business. Like, that was what we were trying to hint at there, was just like, he hasn't quite put it into the perfect words yet. He hasn't delivered the speech enough, but he will. And yeah, I mean, I think we're constantly looking for ways to call forward to those things. And this entire episode, like, the way that Pike talks about empathy at the end, what I had in my mind while working on that scene was all the way through where Kirk would be in Undiscovered Country talking about, the death of his boy. Like, that he struggles with it. He struggles throughout the original series and the movies with not seeing aliens as alien. One of the, I came into this show in season 2, and so there was already some Gorn shenanigans, kind of reconceptualized in this show. And, frankly, an argument that Akiva and I have is whether the Gorn are monsters or not. Because, Akiva, I think smartly, when he was kind of thinking about which pieces of the canon he wanted to go back and take another look at, thought that the Gorn could use more depth and could be a really terrifying villain. And at the same time, I'm like, well, I watched Arena as a young child, and what I took from it was that they're not monsters. That was the whole point. That he's a captain just like you're a captain is the point of the episode. And so the scene between Pike and Kirk, it's a little bit of just a conversation between me and Akiva about that, about whether or not we always need to have empathy. Is it something that you can turn on and off? Is it something that is earned, or is it something that you just have to freely give? And that way, and a bunch of others, this episode is just kind of the story of who Kirk wishes he was and hopes he will someday be, versus the very human, flawed, unbaked cookie that he is at this point in his career.
One of the challenges of writing the show is the legacy that these characters have, but also being in the moment with where they are right now. And it's, Reed and I are both, there's all different kinds of Star Trek fans in our writers' room. There's some people that are fans from childhood, like the two of us, and there are some that are new to the franchise. But so we have these lines that have been in our head for decades, and it's hard not to let that bleed through sometimes, even if it's unintentional. I set the bar for myself to be in the moment with these characters, with where they are right now. And if there is an opportunity to, if it comes out naturally in a way where I'm not being derivative, but like is in the moment of that scene. And David wrote the last scene between Pike and Kirk so beautifully. So that is a fantastic example. I got to do the Spock and Kirk scene in the Farragut Ready room. And that was, me trying to place set an iconic scene. I mean, I'm embarrassed even saying set an iconic, make something that would live up to be an iconic scene between these two, between a relationship that is iconic, that will become iconic. But before it's there, it's the first time that Spock has been able to connect with Kirk in a way that both pushes his buttons, but also inspires him into action. To be in the moment of that, like we've set up in our show that Sam Kirk annoys the hell out of Spock, but also has told Spock a lot about Jim Kirk, and gives him an insight into Jim Kirk that, so Spock is carrying this baggage. That's in the moment, but then also trying to set something that will resonate for this which this should only be just the beginning, barely the beginning of a friendship that's obviously going to become very, very famous in the galaxy. So it's hard. It is a challenge to do that right.
It must have been an intimidating scene to sit down to write, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. But there's also some fun in this episode, and we can take a moment here to gush over Pelia's quarters. Did you guys get a chance to put any Easter eggs in there? Anything you wanted to make sure was in that shot going through her crazy quarters?
I am so sad that I asked for the this didn't happen, just because there's so much that has happened in production. But I was hoping that a little toy taxi would be in the quarters, and I had asked for it, and props just forgot. They're like and they were trying to scramble to find one on the day, and it was like whatever. It's so busy. We're never going to feature it. Don't worry about it. But
are you suggesting that Pelia posed as an actor named Carol Kane in the 70s, 80s, and 90s?
She's been around for
technically
thousands of years. Lanthanites have seen things. They've been around. So, anyways, but yes, there are. There's a Warhol. I think it's called the diptych of her in the background.
We got that. I was like, oh, she definitely posed for Warhol for that one.
Yeah.
I'm sure of it.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they sent us so many ideas. Like the art department, one of the things that happens in a scene like this is that we go into Pelia's quarters, and it's, it looks like she's a hoarder who has collected all these things from centuries. She opens a box. Inside is there's like a scripted cat clock, and then the telephones, and almost everything else really is just suggestions from the art department as they start thinking it through, and they have a bunch of ideas, and they'll send us lists or they'll send us photos, and then everyone kind of works together to pick and choose what makes the most sense for the characters. But it's something that when I saw it on film, I was like, oh, this is even better than I imagined, because it was just so full of stuff. And, I sort of originated in episode 203, the notion that she just has all this crap that she refuses to get rid of. And it was just a joke. Like at the time in that episode, it was just setting up where we might find her in the past, and to see it kind of take on a life of its own in this episode was really great.
So without you, the Enterprise would have never escaped, is what you're saying.
Exactly.
You just said
definitely.
It was all because of that. No, but I feel like the idea for the telephones, that was one where I don't remember whose idea it was in the room, but it as soon as it was brought up, it was like, oh, this is such a perfect way for Pelia's weird skill set to kind of save the day. And, there was a lot of like simplification that we had to do. And that was one where I was like, no, we've got to keep this. It was just so delightful to me.
Well, that leads perfectly into my next question, because we just went from an incredibly iconic and pivotal scene between Spock and Kirk to Pelia's room. This episode balances so many different tones and story styles between the A, B, and C plot. You've got the tension-filled survival. You've got the bug hunt, which is also equally fun, filled with explosions. And you've got the wacky Pelia has a plan story. And somehow it all works. Those three tones work together and culminate in this climax where just a collective release of the butthole tension, right? Like everything just came together. How did you do it? I mean, that must have been really difficult.
I don't know how to do it, Bill. I would say that, like, this was one where I think we sort of reverse engineered the pieces that we needed. Okay. And we knew that, part of the game of TV storytelling is you've got all these great performers and you want to give them all something to do. And so it's just like you look at who's got the biggest story, and then you start dividing people up into other stories and being like, okay, well, what are they doing? And we knew for sure, that the original Enterprise crew were going to be on the Farragut and what they were going to be up to largely. And then we knew that we wanted to give Pike something, a little bit, not macho exactly, but we wanted him to be the one to like lead the charge with La'an to actually go, because that's just the kind of man that he is, that he, there's intruders on his ship. He's going to go down there and deal with it. Mm-hmm. And so it was sort of like just looking at who was left and piecing together, like, what's the most interesting version of their piece of this puzzle. And then honestly, then it's just like you put those literally on the writer's room corkboard. Mm-hmm. You put the cards next to each other that are like, well, these are all the big final set piece things. And then you start working backwards from like, well, where do these pieces need to be? How far does each story need to have gotten so that everything kind of comes together in that moment? Like, you need the telephone thing to be set up, but you can't actually start the thrusters because the umbilical is still attached. So they need to be doing that. But even if they get the umbilical detached, like, Enterprise isn't going to be able to escape unless Farragut is there. So you need to have that story, figured out. And so it's like all of those pieces coming together was almost the starting point versus the end result of like coincidence or fate. It was all designed to lead to that.
And I think that, I will, credit that the script that we did balanced these tones properly, but I think this episode was a good example of every department coming together and working in synchronicity in a way that I'm going to give Val Weiss credit, for directing, for making, seeing that happen. Like, you have all these different stories and different actors who have different strengths in different stories. An actor like Carol Kane, we're very lucky. You can let Carol Kane just be Carol Kane, and she is amazing with prop comedy. She is just fucking funny. But she is also a real actor. So she can carry the weight of knowing the secret once they piece together the mystery of who the scavengers are. And she brings that memory to bear. That's real. That's like that, that like you need somebody with you need an actor who can carry that, and she is able to do both, so she could tie both of those, like and that's an example of two tones working together. And then Val really, to me, what makes this episode work so well, she understands it is the story of Kirk being a captain in crisis for the first time, but it is really the story of two captains. And I think when you look at the episode from a directorial standpoint, you see that. I love the moment at the very, like, she really ties the reveal together through the story of two captains, where you see Spock is looking through a scope and he calls Kirk over, and Pike is leaning over and about to pull over the mask. And, visually you see the story of these two captains that have been told on different ships intersecting in a beautiful way visually. And that, and that's every department, camera working together, art department working together. So like it's where we work with some good people, some smart people. And this was a case where, everybody was really working well together to pull off so many different things in one episode and make it fit together in one episode.
And David, you mentioned finding something for everyone to do, and that was something I noticed with this episode is everyone got a moment to shine. Even we've got Kirk guesting, Jenna Mitchell gets to do stuff. We've got Pelia. breaks my heart that Sam Kirk's the only one missing, but he did get a name drop, so I'm going to let that one slide. But yeah, that was really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sam Kirk was very busy in the xenoanthropology lab doing important things that just he couldn't step away. So
Yep. That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah. Can we be tied to the inside of a giant ship-eating ship later? I'm busy.
Yeah.
yeah.
David, you told us you fought for the title, The Sehlat Who Ate Its Tail. What made you so sure that was the correct title?
Because it's silly. I mean, it was the thing that I kept saying as a theme as we were trying to figure out the story was the dog who caught the car. And there were some people in the writer's room who were like, that's not a thing. That's not a common saying. And I was like, it is to me. Shut up. And it came from, it was honestly, we were talking about like, well, what's the Vulcan version of that? And we didn't know how they were going to fix the problem. Like we were like, and then we'll figure that out later. But we were talking about the conversation.
Writer's opportunity.
Yeah.
It was a writer's opportunity. And Bill loves Sehlats. He just fucking loves Sehlats. He has pitched repeatedly that a Sehlat gets loose on the Enterprise. It has been in several episode breaks. Over and over
Season 5.
We'll see. But so it was that moment when the Sehlat Who Ate Its Tail came up in the writer's room, and then we're like, oh, and then what if we make the ship eat its own tail? Like, what if that's the solution? And after that, I was like, well, that has to be the name of the episode. And then, Bill and Val, while they were on the set, as they were shooting, specifically, there's a couple moments where Kirk looks at the chair. We're sort of making a meal of the fact that he hasn't really sat in it. And then the moment that he sits in it, everything goes to hell. And so Bill texted me and was like, what if we called it the chair? And I believe my response was like a heart emoji and then just no. Because I was so attached. Just for Bill's sake, like for his own sake, I wanted him to have the Sehlat in the title.
I mean, you say it's silly, and maybe it's just because you had told us you fought for it, but I got chills both times the phrase was said in the episode. So for me, it's the right
It works.
choice.
It works very well. Yeah.
I'm glad it is called The Sehlat Who Ate Its Tail.
Well, I don't know, because it feels like, the Sehlat Who Ate Its Tail is like, it falls into the category of parable of there's monsters out there. There's things like the boogeymen are out there. It kind of falls into that same Venn diagram of sayings like that. So good work fighting for it. Good work putting the Sehlat in.
Well, and I mean, there's like one slightly deeper level to it, right? Which is that the point of the episode for Kirk is his dawning understanding that this situation was more complicated than he thought. He wasn't giving empathy, or he wasn't considering the humanity of what turns out to be literal humans who are inside the ship. And the way that he gets closer to it is by his half Vulcan, first officer telling him basically, we have that story, we have that story. Like I am closer to you than you maybe think.
Yeah.
And so it's like the dawning understanding of that takes, there's a couple moments for Kirk to kind of actually come to the full realization, but it was all intentional in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think it does fit with like the idea that we as people can, we can be at our worst. And when we're at our worst, like, the scavenger ship is humanity at its worst, writ very, very large. And that's, what would happen if our basest, worst instincts, for consumption and greed went, unchecked because of being stranded out in the galaxy. So it was, the title does feel like, in a way, it alludes to, that as well. So I like it for that reason too. So I'm talked back into it. I won't ask you again to change it back to the chair. Is it too late still?
I think it might be, as of recording this, probably it's too late.
Okay.
Dang.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, look, the day after tomorrow changed its name between release and DVD release, so you got some time. Well, I mean, yeah, speaking of all that really deep, thought-provoking stuff you guys just said, who's responsible for what I believe is the first dildo joke in Star Trek? Mm-hmm. Outside of Lower Decks, I'm sure they did it. Personal massagers.
Who's to say, you know?
Not going to give blame or credit for that one.
I do think it was me. I'm pretty sure it was me. Wasn't it, Bill? It seems like something I would do.
It was, I think it was also coming from like, what are they going to mistake this phone for? And like, what could, it's like when you look at the props that we had and David Reed went to a personal massager. That's,
I mean,
no judgment.
You might just consider, like we were saying before, there's a little bit of tonal whiplash going between Star Trek and The Boys. And so that might have been a little bit of The Boys
carrying over.
That's fair.
Blending
That's
in
entirely fair.
Yeah. Look, Star Trek characters misidentifying contemporary items is one of my favorite Star Trek tropes. And what else would it look like?
Yeah.
I mean, and you could use it for that, probably.
You attach it to the warp core and,
Yeah.
By the way, gentlemen, the discussions I had with the property department about that line and the prop that we were going to be using when it was said. And just to give you some context, it was me and Val Weiss and Emily Hyde and several other women in the property department. And I was the one dude there saying, which one looks like a personal massager?
I'm not making eye contact with any of them to indicate that you're asking any one of them.
This one looks like it to me, but what do you know? Which would you use?
Just side-eyeing like, yes, no, what?
Not all heroes wear capes, Bill.
That's wonderful. Yeah. Thank you for your sacrifice.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Well, Bill, I mean, swinging back to the beginning of the conversation, what was it in that moment with Akiva and Henry that made you think of these last 7 minutes, the twist that happens at the end of the episode? Because honestly, I think if you, not to disagree with David, but I think if you had ended it there, you would have had a very good episode still. And then you add this extra layer to it. So yeah, where did that inspiration come from in the moment?
I mean, I think I'm going to credit David. Like David set the challenge. Said this episode was originally going to be a different genre big swing, and I'm not going to say what because it does come back in another form, totally different. It wasn't worked out. We didn't have it worked out at all. And I'm glad that sometimes like. Ideas that are that out there, you need like a year to marinate at them before you can understand how to really do them right. And David said, let's do a Star Trek episode. And by that, I meant, we had a bit of a dearth of parables in, Star Trek does that so well, does these Twilight Zone type parables so well. And that where we really shine a mirror on us. I mean, I'm trying to remember how it all happened, but it was just one of those like times when you're in the heat of the moment and thinking like, well, what could this gigantic ship be? And it just felt like, what if it's us? What if it's, and then it's like, how do you do that? Like, how does that, then we have to figure out like what, how it is a segment of humanity that went horribly wrong, where the worst of us come out instead of like what we see in through the Federation, through Starfleet. So that was, it was meeting David Reed's challenge to really, look at ourselves and hold a mirror up to ourselves. And I enjoyed the episode. Time, like this is, but we're recording this before anybody has seen it. Hopefully the world will like it, and we'll see, if it worked. But I dig it.
I'm not making the prediction right now. People are going to
like
love this episode.
Yeah. And with this episode, we're now just over halfway through this season. What is it you guys think sets season 3 apart from the other 2 seasons so far?
Boy.
I think the biggest I mean, for me, the biggest difference is confidence in the ability of the show to tonally swing. And the reason I say confidence is because when we started work on season 2, season 1 had not aired. And while there are obviously tonal swings in season 1, there was I think, legitimate concern that people would just be kind of confused by it. That they would be like, oh, this show is weird. Like, I like the ones where it's serious, but I don't like the funny ones. Or I like the funny ones, but sometimes it's just too up its own butt or whatever. And this was the first season that when we started working on it, the show was, it was a known quantity. The audience really, the people who have found the show seem to really like it. And they seem to specifically really like that aspect. And so it gave everyone, I think, the confidence to be able to say, well, this show can do almost anything. Like, if it can do an animated crossover and a musical, and a time travel heartbreaking thing, and all these other things, like, then yeah, it can do Klingon zombies, and it can do a parable like this, or it can do a holodeck episode. And just knowing that the studio had our back, and that everyone was excited about that felt different and fun. At the same time, there's a lot of because of the strike and because of some other, just too inside baseball to get into stuff that was going on behind the scenes in the production of this season was also very difficult to make. Personally, it was very difficult because there was just a lot of, changes happening and chaos, and how are we going to accomplish this? And how, can we pull off this big of a swing in this episode? And what are the episodes going to be? And, I feel like as the sort of halfway point for the show, it's just kind of an interesting pivot. And, I didn't work on season 4, and I'm not working on season 5. And so for me, this was kind of the end of my time in Trek for now. And so I just kind of needed it to be great. The reason why this episode is so important to me is because it's the last one that I wrote, with Bill. And that was, as a person whose first memory in life is watching Star Trek, that is really meaningful. So this season was a lot. It was both amazing and absolutely chaotic as hell. But hopefully fun to watch.
It's your Sehlat song.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Yeah, I'm just going to echo everything that David Reed just said. That it was, production is chaotic, and no show is immune to, drama behind the scenes drama. We had our fair share, and this was with the strike. This was very challenging. The one thing I will add is there was a moment. I'm bringing it back to Carol Kane when one of the things I love so much about her, she truly wants to understand everything. So she needed to understand every bit of what was happening on the ship, with the scavenger ship, where things were. And she's new to Star Trek. So this was a bit of a challenge to explain to her. And I'm explaining it to her in between takes, on set, while we're moving very quickly. And she said, let's just sit back and talk about it. And she just got down on the floor and lied down and looked up at the ceiling, and I lied down next to her. And I was just talking to her, up explaining, the ins and outs of the ship, and how the engineering works, and what exactly why we needed to wire it, and what the plan on the Farragut was versus what the plan on the Enterprise was, and and we just talked for 20 minutes. And then eventually, I think it was Mackenzie. I can't remember. Just one of the ADs came up and said, "Carol, you're invited to set." and, and she got up and said, "Okay." And she kind of wandered off, and I was just still lying there on the ground looking up at the ceiling. And, that kind of encapsulated the chaos of season 3 for me in a beautiful way. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you for sharing that moment.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Are there, besides taxis, are any other deleted scenes or ideas, that didn't make it to the final cut? Maybe ones we can look forward to on an eventual physical DVD release?
I don't think there's any deleted scenes. This episode, in the prep process, we cut every bit of extra weight that could be tossed out the airlock was tossed out the airlock.
Okay.
And there were a couple things that when I was watching the final cut, I was like, what happened to that thing? And I went and looked at the final script and I was like, oh, right, we cut it. There's...
You never see that umbilical actually fly out of the ship, do you?
Yeah, and I remember also having a conversation.
The
little diagram.
Yeah, diagrams of the diagram.
That's all you need.
In the original draft, they didn't go into the science lab and look at the graphic to begin with. They went to I think it was the gym, which is like a redress of the crew quarters, and they looked out the window and they just saw the big ass umbilical poking into the Enterprise. And Pelia was just like, look at that. See? And then we were informed that was like a $50,000 visual effects shot. And we were like, what if they instead went to the science lab and looked at a graphic, which is much cheaper. There was all sorts of extra visual effects shots that we cut in the sequence of the Enterprise escaping from the scavenger ship. Like, as Ortegas is flying, it was supposed to be like starboard thrusters to 20%, and then you'd see the ship crash into something and scrape along the inside, and anyway, we had to cut all that.
I need to add one thing to this and give credit to Tim Peel and Steph Chris, our motion graphics team. In the scene when Spock and Scotty figure out that there's a Klingon ship among all the junk, that was yet another visual effect that in order for this episode to be on pattern, we couldn't do, which means that it had to all be done in the course of a week on motion graphics, because we didn't even have the money to burn it into the screen. Tim Peel had to prepare that for camera that day, and he did a beautiful job of it. I think I'm saying it out loud now, and maybe people watching will kind of miss seeing like a sweeping shot outside where you see the Klingon. They look out the window and see the Klingon D7 taken apart. But Tim Peel did such an amazing job on that, and he did it with a smile, and I could see behind his eyes, oh my God, they're asking me to do the impossible. I don't know if I can do it, but he and Steph and their team pulled it off. And that's, would those, additional VFX have added to it? Perhaps. I think we, have enough splendor, that you might not notice it as much, but that was another one. I just want to give, I have to give Tim Peel and Steph Chris some props for pulling that off.
And to add to that, so I've worked with Tim Peel a couple times, and he is also the motion graphics supervisor for a little television show called The Boys, which also shoots in Toronto. So I see Tim a lot, wherever I am, Tim Peel is there. And it's just so funny because he's such a huge Star Trek fan that, like, when I'm talking to him about a graphic in the 7 Tower conference room, he's doing his job and he's doing great work. But when I'm talking to him about a graphic of a Klingon D7 inside the maw of a scavenger ship, it's just like the way he lights up and the amount of, like, I don't want to say that he's like going so far above and beyond that we should be paying him more because we don't have the money. Sorry, Tim. But it's remarkable. Like he's putting in heart and soul into it in a way that goes beyond a normal job. And there's a number of things, like you could go back to my first episode that I wrote of the show, when the time traveler shows up and he's got his little device, Tim was like, well, it should really be this other variant version of Elcar's from, this Voyager episode. And I was like, yeah, Tim, it fucking should be. You're right.
Damn right. Yeah.
We have been wanting to get Tim on this podcast for a long time. And just another reminder that once the season's over, we've got to get him on.
Yeah. Yeah, once he's not busy, we'll get him. Yeah,
yeah, good luck. That dude has got a lot of jobs.
Yes, he is.
Look, we know that Bill and David have asked you to do something overnight again, but, for once, let it slide.
Well, do you guys, each of you got a favorite line from the episode?
I think my favorite line is when Spock says to Kirk, after Kirk says, I feel uncomfortable being called captain right now. I'm just an acting captain. And he says, I promise to demote you at the earliest opportunity.
Good line.
I thought Ethan pulled that one off.
Yeah.
That is a great line. The one that I was considering was already mentioned once in this episode, so I'm going to choose a different one, which was when Ortegas is talking about the groans of the ship, and she's like, that's good, right? The ship is happy screaming? Because that was a fun line to write, and it was one of those that you're just like, oh, she's going to do such a good job at this. It's such a great Ortegas line. So the other one is actually, I believe it was cut from the episode, so I'm going to reveal it right now. So Pelia it's when they're putting the phone together on the bridge, and Pelia says, I haven't done this since I was a roadie for the dead. And Ortegas is like, your species can communicate with dead people? And Pelia in the script, and I just watched the final episode and I felt like it was cut, but it's possible that she just says it quietly. Pelia says, don't be absurd. Although there was the time I licked the wrong lizard. And everyone just kind of looks at her and they're just like, what? And then they just move along with their business.
You're right. We did. Why did that get cut?
I don't know. Well, I can tell you that
it made it almost to the end, and I don't remember why it didn't make it to the end, but
I think it was just for time, or there's occasions when a funny line is just in the wrong place, and you're like, this is not doing what the episode needs, and it needs to be more serious right now. And it's also like you can try to out joke a joke, and Ortegas just said a joke, so. Yeah. Anyway, but that was it was a reference for me to the show The Magicians, where there is a pretty famous episode of that show, if you're a fan of the show, where one of the main characters licks a lizard and goes on an episode-long trip in a very insane way. And so I remember getting the note from Davey, like, why is it a lizard? Like, that doesn't make any sense. And I was like, you don't make any sense, Davey. Shut up. Just let me have my fun.
All right, now I can picture the writer's room. All right, now that was the final piece.
We finally
of the puzzle.
achieved our goal of
Carol. In that sequence, Carol improvised a line on set.
Ooh, please tell.
She was like, where am I supposed to be standing here when I'm holding the phone? I'm like, oh, you're standing behind her. She's like, oh, I'm backseat driving. I'm like, say that line. So that was where the, not to backseat drive, but you're scraping the wall came from.
Oh, okay. Nice. Good for her.
Maybe that's where they get all their outdated references from, just like story time with Pelia.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Well, anything else we didn't ask about this episode that you want the fans to know about?
Bill and I just fought like cats and dogs the whole time.
We did.
Just us scratching at each other. No, this episode was a lot of fun. This was a great one to work on. Very satisfying. And, I'm very proud of it. And I've done a lot of Kirk episodes on this show. And so it felt like an appropriate kind of send-off. Like, it's not exactly the pilot for the Kirk show, but it could be.
Backdoor pilot.
There you go. All right.
Well,
thank you guys for being here, for joining us for Strange New Words. It is great to talk with both of you again, and I'm sure by the time folks have listened to this, you guys are seeing some great feedback for this episode. And yeah, just once again, fantastic work on a great story told.
Thank you very much.
It's a really good episode, guys. Good job.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. There's more good ones to come this season.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. And now I'm wondering if this was originally a puppet episode. Is that the swing that this
It was not a puppet episode.
It was
Oh,
not.
so there's more swings coming. Okay.
That was a different big swing.
Well, thank you guys both very much for being here tonight. And if is there anything you'd like to plug besides Strange New Worlds? Anything big coming up? Like, I don't know, season 5 of The Boys? Anything? What's going on?
Everyone should watch season 5 of The Boys, and they should also watch season 2 of Gen V, The Boys spinoff, September 17th on Amazon Prime Video. Check it out. It's very good.
Fantastic. Bill, you got anything?
Nothing personally. I will recommend, and it almost doesn't need any recommending. My friend Maggie Kang and Chris Applehans directed a small little Netflix movie called K-pop Demon Hunters, which is an utter delight. Not that many people have seen it so far, so go check it out.
Man,
All my daughter is watching.
There's a Star Trek connection there. Bowie from Bowie, one of the writers from Disco, worked on that.
And Erica, yes,
Bowie and Erica, both of them. Yeah,
I think they were on the writing team, and I think Christina Strain might have been also.
Oh, was she?
Yes.
Oh my God, so many of our friends worked on.
So many of our friends. So yeah, just a tiny little movie to check out that you might have missed.
If you have kids and you have not seen this movie, it is, show it to them. It's a great one you can watch with them, and they will eat it up and listen to that music nonstop. But they're bangers.
Yeah, they are. And I'm glad when good people make something that connects and lots of people watch it. I think that is very cool.
Fantastic. Well, thank you guys very much, and thank you to everybody listening and watching this Strange New Words episode. Be sure to tune in a couple days for our coverage of The Sehlat Who Ate Its Tail on Open Pike Night.
We should also say, I know that we missed episode 304, but it's coming. It's just coming late, but we will be talking to both Dana and Kat. And we finally got Anitra pinned down with a free schedule, and we will talk to her and cover her previous episodes from her point of view as well.
Absolutely.
Awesome.